Woohoo! Hello, my sewing friends. I'm Jen, and this is Friday Sews, when we talk about sewing and life, and I tack a little bit of Jesus on at the end. And I have a lot of sewing to tell you about, so let me get straight into that. I did a fall plans video where I talked about the things I wanted to sew, and I want to start out by saying I have a lot of dresses. In fact, they were almost all dresses. There was one top in there. That's because I wear dresses. I just don't wear pants that much because where I live, it's hot and it's still 90 through most days. And I'm hot in pants. I would rather wear a skirt and just, that openness gets the air able to move. I don't know. There are all kinds of people down here that wear pants all the time and they're not bothered by it, but I don't know. I'm a dress girl. I just like dresses. So that's why I pretty much all my plans are dresses. So I made a couple of those this week. And, that's unusual for me because I'm often going, squirrel, shiny. I'm such a mood sewer. I'll have a stack of things I want to do and then I get distracted by something else. So anyway, I got 2 of them done. So let me tell you about them. The first one is New Look 6889. This is from 2011, although it is still available in probably stores, but also on the Simpicity website. And it says easy 2 hour. I am not sure what person they think is going to get this done in 2 hours. From cutting it out to sewing it up. Maybe they're just only talking about sewing it up, but there are several views that you can do. It calls for 2.5 yards of fabric. Well, I had 2 and I think 3/4 yards of fabric. The fabric I used was a quilting cotton, and it was from Fancy Gap Quilting and Pottery Outlet in Fancy Gap, Virginia. That place is like the Walmart of quilting shops. No kidding. It's massive. And so many amazing fabrics. And they're so well organized because a lot of times, quilt shops will do it by color, but you have no idea where, the fabrics with the dogs are and the fabrics with the flowers are, and Fancy Gap does that. They go by kind of a category. And so it's really nice. Well, I got this black fabric with sewing machines on it, little black sewing machines, and I loved it. And I thought, I have no idea what I'm going to make with this, but I will find something. Well, this was perfect because I made just this little day dress. And it's the kind of dress that I put on and wear around the house. I can jump in the car and go run an errand if I need to. I look nice enough for that, but that's pretty much how I wear them. Well, couple of things to know about this dress. First off, the neckline is really low. Comes down to probably about here. That's low. For me, a neckline is low if it's, a little bit below where this one is. So it was kind of way down there. And that, it didn't bother me so much that I wouldn't wear it, but it kind of bothered me. And the other thing is, I've made several of this kind of a dress, and anytime you do, it is huge. And if you don't want to look like you're wearing a feed sack, then your best bet is to put fisheye darts in the back. So I did that. Those are easy to do. The hardest thing is to figure out where you want them to start. You usually want them about 12 inches long or a little less, maybe 10. And they're easy to draw. You just draw a triangle and then flip it upside down and do the same thing at the bottom. And usually I start mine right about my scapulo, where that, like down below your shoulder line, where the bone ends in the back. Yeah, about there. Or you can get out a pattern that you already have that has fisheye darts in the back, and you can just kind of lay it on top and go from there. Those are the 2 things. I made some changes, and I will show you what those are. First was the pockets. These pockets, if I cover up this red, you can't even see where they are. I made them, and they have the cutest little kind of a tulip kind of effect or a sweetheart kind of effect, they round over and come to a point like that. You couldn't even see them. It's like pockets. What pockets? Little patch pockets on the front. So what I did was I went into my stash of bias tape and I pulled out some and I folded it. I unfolded the whole thing. It was extra wide double fold. So I unfolded the whole thing and pressed it, and then I folded it in half and pressed it, folded the ends in, and then I went in and I unpicked the tops of the pockets down about an inch. And I put this piece of bias tape behind the pockets so that now you can see them. Looks like this. And you first of all know where they are, and second of all, you get to see that nice little feature, that nice little sweetheart kind of thing. So that fixed that. Well, that low neckline was it wasn't bothering me over much, but I thought, you know what, I bet I could fix that with bias tape. So I went in to find some bias tape, and I had used the very last of this bias tape for the pocket. And I didn't have any that was dark enough. Everything else I had was kind of a bright tomatoey color. And I thought, you got to be kidding me. I have all the bias tape in the known universe and I can't find the right color. No, I could not. So I went out, searched my stash, realized I probably had Christmas fabric that was red. So I went out in the garage, found some, made some bias tape, and I put it around the neckline. Now, this was so easy. So easy. I graduated it into the shoulder seam. So as you come up, it gets, thinner and thinner. And I did that because I have done this sort of thing with other necklines. And when I followed it all the way around to the back, it distorts the back neckline. And so I thought, no, I don't want to do that. So I did just graduate it up. You can kind of see that it kind of narrows out to nothing there at the shoulder line. And it's just one this way and one this way, top stitched on the inside. That's it. Not difficult at all. There is a join right here where one came down this way and one came down that way. That is the total extent of the difficulty of this. So that brought that neckline up just, oh gosh, I don't know, maybe a half an inch, maybe a centimeter, and that's it. And it's just enough to make it a little more comfortable for me. So that was the first dress. I'm pretty happy with that one. And I would, on a scale of 1 to 10, I don't know if I'll keep doing this, but I think this is a good idea. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would give that about a 7 because of the neckline, because it's so big and you have to put in the fisheye darts, but also because it's very simple. A beginner could easily do it. So I'd give this 7 out of 10. The next one was, this is a Simpicity Super Saver pattern from 1988. It is vintage, but not quite as vintage as me. And it says, easy. On the back, no kidding, it says, Mrs. Easy to Sew dress with cap sleeves and scoop neck. And it is easy. But if you're a beginner and you hear that, you think, oh, piece of cake, I'll just throw it together. Well, if you've done buttonholes, you will be fine. But if you haven't and you're not confident enough to be able to do them, then this is probably not easy enough for you. If you can get help or practice or whatever, what have you, then you'll be fine. It's not difficult at all. Okay. This called for 2 7/8 yards of 2 7/8 yards of fabric. Well, I had 2 3/8 of this. This is a quilting cotton that I got somewhere. I just can't remember where. I could have been a lot of places, but it's just a quilting cotton. It is the best fabric to sew with if you're a beginner because it does exactly what you want it to do. You go to press it, it does it. So this pattern, couple of things about it. First of all, it has one of these, it says cap sleeve. Well, I don't know that I would call that a cap sleeve because it's not a separate sleeve that's attached, but it is just kind of an extended shoulder. kind of goes like this. So your shoulder seams come out like that, and then they just go back in. Well, the beauty of that kind of an extended shoulder is that you don't have to like not interface. You don't have to make a facing. You don't have to use bias tape on it, nothing like that. All you do is you hem that edge with a narrow hem, and then you have a dot to where the side seam starts, and then you just sew the side seam. Piece of cake, so easy. Well, I've already made 3 dresses like that have that kind of an extended shoulder, and I thought, oh, I just don't want the same thing. So I went in and kind of laid a couple of different bodice pieces that had just a sleeveless bodice on top of the pattern, and I cut it, but I was afraid to cut too much. So I waited until I had the bodice shoulder seams and side seams together, and I went in and tried it on and realized this is not going to do it. So I cut it some more. I was so afraid to cut it too much because I didn't have any more fabric left. But I ended up being able to cut it. It's still a little wide through the shoulder seam. But you know what? When I think about it, that's an adjustment that I always forget to make, and I always need to make, is to shorten the shoulder seam by about a ½ inch. I didn't do that, but it's fine. It looks fine, and I'm not unhappy about it. So I changed that. Well, then I needed bias tape so I could finish the armhole edge, because I had no more fabric at all, or not at all, but I had very few scraps of fabric. I had some I had selvage, a couple of like good size 2-inch pieces of selvage. And then I had like an odd shaped piece. That was it. And so I made bias tape from those scraps. Let me show you how I did that. I think out of these 2 pieces, look how little this is. This is not very much fabric. I think I'm going to be able to get enough bias binding to be able to make the armhole bindings for that. So the first thing I'm going to do is line it up straight. So I'm just lining up this fold with this. Now it's great if you have one of these, but if you don't, it's pretty simple to find the bias. You just, as long as you have a pretty straight edge, and then you just do this. And here is your 45-degree angle for a bias strip. You can do it that way, or this, which I highly recommend getting one of these. This is a quilting ruler, but it has angled lines on it. So all I do is lay my 45-degree angle. Let's see, it's right there. Wherever I think the longest amount of bias strip I can get is. Okay, let's try here. So I've got my 45-degree angle lined up this way, and that gives me that angle here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that. I'm going to use my rotary cutter. Okay, now I have a 45-degree line. Now it's a simple matter of just cutting your strips. Right now I have, you can see I've got more than enough probably to go around both armholes. I've got roughly a yard of bias tape here. Now what I'll do is go over and I'll sew it together. And the way that I've learned to do this is to figure out how to get it straight, because I do this wrong almost every time. But you figure out how to lay it so you're going to have a straight strip like that. And then you unfold it so that you've got one this way and one this way. And you know that this is your folding line, right? Right there. So you're going to need to stitch from here to here, or vice versa. So that's the important thing. Remembering which corner to stitch from. I'm sure there's an easy way to remember it, but I always forget. So here to here. I could cut a couple more and get 2 yards, but I'm looking here and seeing, well, is this enough to go around an armhole? Probably. See, you can make bias from any kind of a scrap that you have. I do have my limits. If it's only this big, like 6 inches big, then I'm not going to even try. But I didn't have very much, and I had enough to where I made enough bias tape to bind these armhole edges, and I even had a little bit left over. Not much, not that much, but I had enough. So when I laid this out, because I did not have enough fabric, this is the next thing. I used a remnant of just another cotton that I had that is cream colored. So it looks like that. I got it all the way to the facing, and I couldn't, I thought, okay, something's got to give here because I don't have enough fabric. So when you have that, use the pieces that are on the inside that you're not going to see for extra fabric. Like when you have to substitute in another fabric, use those pieces for that because you're not going to see them. They're not going to show. So I did that. I made a 12. Normally I would make a 14, but I have to tell you, this on the pattern envelope looks pretty loose fitting. And I thought, oh, it'll be fine because it's loose fitting. And I measured all the things out, took away seam allowance, figured it out, and it looked like it was going to be more than enough. Well, should have known. I didn't account for the darts in the front and the back. They're waist darts, and that's where I have the trouble, is in my waist. So I ended up going in and taking out about half of each dart. Probably gained me about 3 inches, which seems like a lot, but that's just how much it was. And now it's close, but I can easily move. It's very comfortable. So next time I will probably make the 14. But if I do that, I will probably still take a 1/2 inch seam allowance, but I'll leave the darts the way they are. I'll make them the right size. And I had traced this off, so it was fine. It was uncut, and I just wanted to kind of leave it that way because it's vintage. It has the biggest pockets. Oh my gosh, they're patch pockets, but they're huge. I measured them, and they're 8 inches. And 8 inches square, that is a big, deep patch pocket. 2 things I absolutely adore about this dress are the print, which I didn't think was going to look all that great on me, but I think it does. I think it looks great. And then the other is the buttons. These buttons were given to me by Michelle of Michelle Sews Again, and she has started making polymer buttons. She's an artist. She's the daughter of an artist, and she got that artist gene. And so she gave me and several other of our friends these buttons, and I could not find. I am button challenged. I freely admit it. I need a support group or something because I have a lot of buttons, as probably we do. All of us do. We got our grandmother's box. I can never find enough or what I want. It just never looks right. So I laid a bunch out, not a bunch. I think I had 2 or 3 I had enough of them, and they were the right colors and everything. And I laid a bunch of them out, and these were the perfect ones because they're multicolored and they're oddly shaped. They're shaped like a diamond, and that gave me pause. I thought, am I going to have trouble with the buttonholes? No, not a piece of cake. So that's another thing I love. I love this dress so much. It's so comfortable. It's easy to wear. It's pretty. I put a 6-inch hem in this dress. I just didn't cut anything off what, the pattern had me cut, for the skirt. It was a rectangle. And so I just turned up 1/4 inch, and then I turned up 6 more inches. Oh my gosh, 6 inches. That's that wide of a hem. Well, 2 things about that. First of all, on a rectangular skirt, that is a piece of cake to do. On an angled, like an A-line skirt or any kind of a skirt that has a curved edge, you're going to have more at the raw edge than you do at the place that you fold it up to. So you have to gather it or ease it as you go around. If you've got a big deep hem, there's a big difference between the amount of fabric at the bottom raw edge than at the place where, you know, up where you're going to hem it. So with a rectangular skirt, it's a box. So all I had to do was flip it up and, you know, it's like hemming a t-shirt. It was great. And the thing about a big wide hem like that, first of all, it's heavy, so it makes the dress hang really nicely. And second of all, I don't know why this is, but I just feel like a big fat hem makes it feel expensive, makes it feel like, yeah, I had all the fabric in the world. And so I just thought, you know, I'll just leave it long and I'll just hem it. I don't know why I think that. I just do. But I love that about it too. So I love this dress. I would not quite give it a 10 out of 10 because I don't know why. I just don't want to, I don't know. You know, it has to be so spectacular. I think a bridal gown needs to be a 10 out of 10. But I would give it a 9.5 out of 10. So huge success. So that is all the stuff I got done. I need an entryway table, you know, for place to set stuff by my front door. Why do you need to know this? Because when I went shopping for one, I pulled up Facebook Marketplace. That's where everybody finds stuff. It's kind of like the new version of Craigslist. And so I, you know, logged into Facebook and went to Marketplace. And the first thing that hits you is this page that, you know, the home page that you land on. And it always has all manner of things that they think you might want to buy. So before I can even get to entryway table, which I still need to buy one or find one, I see a featherweight. And it was not expensive. It was about half the cost of a really nicely well-kept featherweight. This was made in 1954, and I thought, I don't need another featherweight. I have a featherweight that my mother and father-in-law gave me years ago. And I don't honestly think they knew what they were giving me. I think they thought sewing machine, oh, that's cute. They had no idea what it was worth and that it was collectible. But I looked at it and I thought, do I want to get that? That's a really good price. Oh, so I messaged the people, lovely people. Oh, I stood and talked with them when I went to get it for probably half an hour, just visiting. I couldn't decide all the way there. I'm questioning, should I do this? Should I do this? Do I really want to spend the money on this? Should I do this? Yes, I did. So I did. And it's in pretty good shape. I think it needs to be tuned up and shined up, but it makes a beautiful stitch. It sews very nicely. I got an instruction manual and a funny looking screwdriver with it, and this little book that is published by, I don't know, somebody, and Silver Star Publishing, I don't know, but it's a little book about featherweights and, you know, how to take care of them, all of the little things about them. No box of accessories, but I have the box of accessories that came with my other featherweight. So got another one. Here is one thing about this that I didn't know. I was, you know, kind of talking to my friends. I have two groups of friends. One group is Carol from Sew Carol, if you watch her, and Adam from Adam Sews. And they're both in England. And then the rest of us are here in the US. Well, I was telling them, oh, I got another featherweight. And I said I would love to have it painted. Now, if you've ever been to like a sewing expo or anything like that, a lot of times they'll have a booth where people have featherweights and they've painted them. They're beautiful colors. They look like shiny cars. And oh my gosh, just such beautiful stuff that they've got. And so I thought, oh, I would love that if I could have this painted because I've got the other one. And so I looked it up and it's like unbelievably expensive to paint them, have them painted. So I was mentioning that to our friends, and Adam, who is a quilter and a collector of machines that he can quilt with, he has a featherweight. And he said, oh, Jen, you don't want to take it to you know, somebody that does that, take it to a body shop that paints cars. And, you know, you can get new decals from the Featherweight shop, which is the shop. They have a YouTube channel, actually. He said you'll have to take off the silver plate and I don't know, something else. But he said you can take the shell over to a body shop and have them paint it for you. And it's way less money. And I thought, well, I just might have to check that out. So I'm going to take it over to Eric so he can do his magic on it and ask him about it and see what he says. And so I don't know. Maybe the next time you see this, it'll be some fantastic color. I don't know. The case is in pretty good shape. It's not great, but it'll do. I don't know. I tend to want to change these up anyway someday when I feel like I'm going to be crafty today. I don't know. We'll see. So that's all the sewing related things, all of it. With regard to life, it's still 90 degrees here. Oh, I love it. The humidity, I know you can tell there. Forget trying to curl your hair because you walk out. For a lot of people, it's frizz. For me, it's just forget it. It's just flat. And that's always been the case, but I don't care. I do not care. I love sitting out on my lanai in the mornings when it's cool. I am on a sourdough journey. My sourdough keeps coming out flat as a pancake. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I do all the right things, you know. But you know what? I went back in some of my cookbooks. I have some older three-ring binder cookbooks, like the Betty Crocker ones or the Better Homes and Gardens ones from like the 50s and 60s and 70s. And they all talk about sourdough starter, and they use yeast when you start to make it. And of course, you still have to let it ferment, but I have not done that. I've only used flour and water because all the gurus on YouTube say that's how you should do it. But, you know, and I have a great starter going. I mean, I feed it and it rises like, you know, a lot and it works. It floats in water before I use it. I mean, it's great. And so I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but I do make a bread that is known as sourdough discard bread. Discard is, you know, you make the starter and then you only use a portion of it. And then what's left is the discard. And so the bread that I can make that way is not done in a Dutch oven and it does not turn out flat as a pancake. But the discard bread has yeast and a tiny bit of sugar and flour and water and a little bit of salt. And it is the best looking bread that I have ever made in my life. If you want the recipe, tell me and I'll give it to you. Maybe I'll just put it in the comments. Beautiful bread. And if you look at the recipes from those older cookbooks, they also use yeast. And I'm wondering if I can try making my regular sourdough, which is just flour, sourdough starter, flour, water, and a little bit of salt. If I could just do it in a loaf pan instead of in a Dutch oven. So I don't know, I may try that. I'll keep you posted. So that's life. That's probably more life than you really wanted to know about, but that's life. I don't know. I'm happy all the time because I'm wearing this dress that I love. Let's see. Oh, one more thing I wanted to tell you about, and that is Catherine of Catherine Sews. If you have not subscribed to her, you are so missing out because she is wonderful. I'll link her channel up here. She has started a new community. Okay, now this woman has been a teacher for 20 years of sewing design, kind of like home economics, but it's only sewing and design. And she knows how to show you how to do something. And that's huge strength for her. And she does a lot of upcycles, which is kind of fun because she'll get something that she's thrifted and she'll say, I don't know what I think I'm going to turn it into this. And then you watch her do it and it's amazing. And you think, I could probably do that because as she goes, she's teaching you. It's just, anyway, so she has formed this community on a platform called Skool. It's spelled Skool. And it's, I don't know, it's kind of like Substack, I guess, or a community like that where there is a membership fee that you pay, but it's nominal and worth it. And so she's created this community and there are challenges that you do if you want to. Nothing is mandatory. It's just a lot of people to talk sewing with. So another community to be a part of, and I have been thoroughly enjoying it. It's great. I mean, it's the kind of thing I've been checking in on every day and just seeing what's new. Catherine also does destination tours where you can go thrifting, you go to museums about fashion and design. Right now, I think in about week after next, I think is when it is, or maybe in 2 weeks, she's doing a tour in Montreal and Toronto, and they're gonna go to some museums and go to thrift shops and do that kind of thing. There is in the spring coming up a tour to London. Well, my husband has said he wants to go to Greece for next year for our 40th anniversary. And so when the whole thing about London came up, Catherine said it would be at the end of April, beginning of May. And he and I are planning to go with our daughter and son-in-law around our anniversary, which is the 17th of May. And so I thought, oh man, I can't do 2 international trips like that. I don't know that that'll work. And so in the replies to the post, I said, well, unfortunately, I will be in Greece in the month of May, so I don't think I can do it this time. Catherine replied and said, I don't think I've ever heard anyone say, well, unfortunately, I have to go to Greece. Oh my gosh, it made me laugh. Anyway, so go check out the community. I will link it below, and also, up in the cards, I've linked her video where she talks about it and gives you all the ways all the directions to get there and the things about it. So yet another community that we can enjoy. Friday Sews is a wonderful community, and I would love to merge that on into Catherine Sews and just even more people talking sewing with nobody else that they can talk sewing with. So, okay, I will leave it at that and move on into a little tiny bit of Jesus. So if that's not for you, thank you so much for coming and listening to me carry on about my favorite dress. I'm not kidding. I don't know if I'm going to wear this a lot. It'll go in my rotation of the 3 dresses that I seem like I always wear. Anyway, thank you for being here and letting me talk at you and spending some time with me. I value your time and mine too, and so I'm glad to spend it with you. So I will see you next time. If you did stay for a little bit of Jesus, I just have one little verse to share with you. It's from, oh gosh, the print on this is so small, Psalm 48:10. Be still and know that I am God. Be still. In the mornings, like I said, I've been going out on my lanai, and I don't take my phone, I don't take my laptop, I've just taken my coffee, and I sit and I am still. And I look at the breeze, the curtains and the breeze, and the tree where the birdhouse is hanging, and I'm just still and quiet, and I just am. It's not like waiting, it's purposely not doing. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it does to me. It's not making a list of things I have to do. It's not thinking about the day and all the things I have to get done. It's not sitting and doing half those things. It's just sitting and being. And when you do that, and Jesus, you walk with Jesus, that is a wonderful time, because he meets you there. I don't know a better way to say it. He meets you there. You should do it. It feeds you. It feeds your soul. Just sit. Be still. Be still. Okay, that's it for this week. I will see you next time. I love you all. Thanks for being here.